Well, what's going on, y'all? Thanks for tuning in today. Thank you for being here. As we dive into Nuggets of Truth, Part 2, the thing that I want to unpack today is a very good topic, a good nugget. But before we even get there, I do want to ask a question. How many of us, show of hands, if you're honest, enjoy waiting? Now, for those of you that actually raised your hand and said that you enjoy waiting, you are some unique individuals because most people don't really enjoy waiting. Me being one of them, I don't really enjoy waiting. I mean, I will wait because that's just the name of the game sometimes, whether it's in a line at a bank, a grocery store, sporting event, whatever it might be. Or if you're waiting for like a bus at a bus stop, waiting for a ride like an Uber or a Lyft, whatever the case might be, you really don't like to wait. Unless, of course, in the process of waiting, you're doing something else. But this is what I want to unpack today. I want to unpack and talk about the waiting season. So I hope you're ready to dive into this together and hopefully pick up some nuggets of truth. So without further ado, cue the intro. Now I got two clips to show us today. I don't know if you remember last week when I kicked this series off, I mentioned that these next 4 weeks I have 4 clips from the Stay True podcast when it first kind of started off. Madison Pruitt Trout was talking about these different nuggets. And each week I wanted to include a clip from the Stay True podcast. So yes, I have a clip from that today. But I also have another one that I want to show us that I think is important to also include because I think it will help bolster the topic for today. It'll help drive the point home that I'm trying to make. And this clip is from Fountain Springs Church, Pastor David. It's kind of a long clip. It's from a sermon back in like the beginning of June. But he was talking about waiting, and I think this is so important to also watch and see. So I'm going to play this for you, discuss this, and then I'll play for you the second clip. So check this out.
I'm going to say something about you. Some of you won't like this because you're like, David, you're overgeneralizing, but I'm going to say it anyways. We hate to wait. I don't always use the word hate, but I'm going to use it here, okay? And I know some of you are like, you know what, David, I embrace it. I love it. Well, good for you. 99% of us aren't quite there yet. So because we're a church for anyone and everyone, I'd like to talk to you, at least the 99% of us, who would say, absolutely, I hate to wait. So with that, let me tell you a little bit more what's going on. This is fascinating. A long time ago, I shared a little bit about this. The Houston airport was getting a ton of critique. They were getting critique about how long it took for people to get their bags. Like they would fly in, they would go to the baggage claim, the carousel, right? And they would wait. You've done this. We do this a lot in Rapid City. It's not a commentary, it's just what happens. And you go down there as though you're in a race and you got to get there and you think the faster you get there, the faster your bags are going to get there. And that's not at all what happens. So the Houston airport had a massive amount. It was their top complaint was how long it took for people to get their baggage after arriving. So the executives are like, we've got to tackle this. So what they did is their first attempt at this was they hired more baggage handlers. It's logical, right? Let's get more people to grab more bags to get them there as fast as possible. They were able to break the industry standard, and 8 minutes, even under 8 minutes, they were able, by the time that the plane got parked up at the gate, within 8 minutes, those bags were on the carousel going around, okay? And that was better than the industry standard. Here's the deal. The comments did not decrease. Shocker, right? You're like, we still complain. People were still showing up within 1 to 2 minutes and still having to wait. Didn't matter if it was 8 minutes or 7 minutes, an hour, or even 6 minutes. They're still going there. All right, we're there. And they just stare. You and I do this. We just stare. We don't want to look at each other. We're just going to stare. Then we look at our phones and we just stare. And we think that we're waiting for that light to turn on. Finally, we're going to get our bags, right? So because they're getting so many complaints, they did more and more research. And here's what they came up with. If you want to know how new airports are built, they designed it not to speed up how fast the bags got to you, but how slowly you could get to the bags. No joke. So now the new standard for building airports is what Houston did. They said, let's make it a longer route for the passengers to get to the baggage claim. And so they extended it so they had to walk all around the place. And we're like, where are we going? And they're walking and walking and walking and walking and walking and walking and walking. And they get to their bags, and guess what's there? Right when they get there, their bags are already there. And they're like, Houston's amazing. Telling their friends, you should fly through Houston. They get your bags there super quick. And what they learned was, well, they brought a guy in. That's what happens. You bring a guy in who's a specialist on people waiting. And they learned something. Let me show you this specialist. Like literally, this is what he does. We tolerate occupied time far better than unoccupied time. Fascinating. It's like you and I are like being studied, because we are. Give us something to do while we wait, and the wait becomes endurable. This is actually profound for you and I. I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but at least do it in your mind. If I were to ask you, have you ever waited on God? Have you ever spoken to God and in your heart begin to wait to see if he's going to answer you, how he's going to answer you, what he's going to do? If you're any kind of normal, this is one of the main pain points of following Jesus, of having to wait on him. I'm just going to tell you, I grew up in church. I'm a pastor. It's the most annoying thing about my relationship with God. Are you okay with me? Is waiting. I know some of you are like, David, his time is perfect. I know his timing's perfect. But I'm still annoyed. I don't enjoy waiting. And I know that what he's going to do is best for him and the glory of God, and all of heaven rejoices when God is glorified. I know all of that. Meanwhile, me and God are wrestling because his timing's not matching up with mine. And so I think studies like this help you and I understand, like, if it's just a fact of life that you're not going to understand God's timing. It's in the Bible, tons of stories. Abraham's a great one.
Is that interesting? I found it interesting. The story that Pastor David actually said there about the Houston airport, how the number one complaint was how long it was taking for people to get their bags. And so the Houston airport tried to hire more baggage people to reduce the amount of time it took for the bags to get to the carousel. And yet, the complaints still didn't go down. That was still the number one complaint. So they brought in a specialist, somebody that studies people. And what he found, the quote that David read, was that we don't mind waiting if our time is preoccupied with something else, if we're doing something in the waiting. And if we're not doing something, that's when it becomes a problem, because we're just standing there waiting. So what did they do? They made it a little bit longer for you to get from the gate to baggage claim. Made you kind of go down this way or go down that way. So by the time you got down to baggage claim, your bags were already there. And he was talking about how that is the struggle that he still has with, even with God himself. He knows all of that stuff, that God's timing is perfect and in his time is the best time, all of it. But yet he still struggles with it because, one, he's a human being, and two, it's still not on his timetable. It's not on his time frame. And so I wonder, how many of us actually wait well? How many of us, when we're waiting on God, we ask God for something, whether it's to intervene in a situation or to answer this or to do that, and either he doesn't the answer is no, or it happens, but it happens outside of when you really want it to happen, how many of us are okay with that? Are okay with God's timing? And how many of us get frustrated? If you're honest. Which brings me to the second clip, the Stay True clip, Madison Pruitt Trout. She talks about this as well, and she brings up some stuff that I want to highlight on the back end of this. So go ahead and check this out.
I didn't know if it would ever turn into a book, didn't know if it would be a blog, didn't know if it would just be an Instagram caption, but I was like, hey, I'm going to write, I'm going to be faithful to what I feel called to do. And that's what waiting well looks like. Being able to hold on to the hope of God's promises while being faithful in the season that you're currently in. And knowing that waiting, like a waiting season, God cares so much more about who you're becoming than what you're waiting for. Like he's not just looking to give you this thing. He is looking to develop something in you that is strong, that is unwavering, that is prepared, that is forged. Like he cares so much more about my heart posture than what my hands can hold, right? Like he cares so much more about what's in here than what's going on around me. And that was when my character was like, strengthened. That was where my faith was built. That was where I really learned the importance of a private life faith. Like when nobody else is around, when I'm not getting the dreams, when I'm not getting the answered prayers, when I'm not getting the miracles that I'm hoping for and believing for, when I'm not seeing things happen before me, like, is God still enough? And the answer is yes, he's more than enough. And we're never going to be able to get the abundantly more that God has for us if we're holding on to the less than best pass. I don't think that made any sense. Let me say that again. We are never going to get the abundantly more that God has for us if we are clinging to our less than best past. Like we are not going to get all that God has for us while we're still holding on to our past. We're not going to get the future he has for us while also simultaneously holding on to the past. And I'll say that a different way. We cannot also have the faith that we want to have if we're saying we trust God in one hand while holding on to control in the other. You either trust God or you have control. You cannot have both. You have to choose.
There's so much good nuggets in that clip. I'm going to highlight just a few because I think it's important, just in case you missed it. See, she was talking about what waiting well looks like. And she was saying that we have to be able to hold on to God's promises while being faithful in the season that we're currently in. That's the key, while being faithful. Because hold on to God's promises, what he says that he will do if you do this or if you do that. Hold on to those promises, but don't let go of or just forget about the season that you're currently in. Don't be so focused on the next season that you check out of the current season that you're in. And then she also says that God cares more about who you're becoming than what you're waiting for. So think about that as well. Who are you becoming while you're waiting on God? When you ask God for whatever it is, heal this person, let me get this job, let me date this person, whatever it might be that you're asking God for, he cares more about who you're becoming in the waiting season and what you're waiting for. So don't forget the process. The waiting is very important. Essentially, she's saying that the waiting is a process in which it requires development in you. Waiting requires development. I'm reminded of my favorite scripture, Isaiah 40, verse 31. Those that wait on the Lord will find new strength. They will mount up on wings like eagles. They will walk and not grow weary. They will run and not faint. Think about that. When you think about weight training, going to the gym, lifting free weights and whatnot. You have to build muscle, your physical muscle, right, in your body. But you also have a spiritual muscle. And how do you train that? How do you make that get stronger? Learning how to wait well on God. Wait on His timing. And while you're waiting, you keep yourself occupied in the proper way. Do things, volunteer, help others. Don't just be idle and thumb back and forth, twist your thumb, like, oh, well, I'm waiting, so forego the season that you're in. There is a great song that I think also helps to convey this point that you could possibly use as an anthem whenever you're feeling discouraged that God is not answering you in your timing. Maybe perhaps play this song and remind yourself of who God is and what you're supposed to do in the waiting. It's called While I'm Waiting by John Waller. I'm going to link that up in the corner because I think it's important. But thank you so much for watching today and for tuning in each and every week. I'm so glad that you're here. Please comment below and let me know if this actually helped you to readjust and refocus your waiting so that you can wait properly and wait intentionally. So, thank you so much. Until next week, where we will tackle part 3 of Nuggets. Stay safe and be blessed.